Good afternoon, everyone, wherever you are in the world. I wanted, or Talent Finders would like to introduce Nancy J Spotton on today's podcast. Nancy is a top performance coach, building winning teams with people data, and keynote of 11 habits of champion teams. So welcome, Nancy.
Thanks, Karen. I'm so excited to be here. I appreciate the invite.
Well, thank you for joining us. So let's start at the beginning. So where did your career start, and what was the transition into becoming a top performance coach?
I would start at the very beginning. When I was 16 years old, I read a book, and the book was called "What Color is Your Parachute?" Like everybody else at 16, they had no idea what they wanted to do when they were older. So I read, "What Color is Your Parachute?" It was, at the time, I think the only book that actually helped people with career decisions. It had a little psychometric evaluation in the back of it, which psychometric evaluations are really just questions. I answered the questions. It told me I should be an athletic coach. And at the time, I was coaching in alpine skiing, and I was also a soccer player. And I continued to coach in that sport as well. Always having that information in the back of my head. I was working my way up the ladder in high performance coaching, and in sport. I was offered a job in corporate, and I was offered a job at the same time to take over as one of the program directors at the provincial high performance level. I chose option A, the corporate, because at the time somebody said to me, coaching is not a full-time job. Coaching is something you do while you go to university. Yeah. And that comment put me in this mindset of, wow, okay, I'm not going to coach. I'm going to go and be in this particular role. It was event execution and sales or business development. That's the beginning of the journey. I worked my way up, Karen, all the way up to the top of brand, sales, marketing, events, only to realize at the end, I actually am okay in those areas, but where I'm really good is in teams and coaching. And that's when I decided I turned my face to the sun. I set a goal, and off I went.
That's amazing. That's amazing. So, this leads me to my next question. So there is a strong emphasis around and on leadership. Firstly, what is your definition of being not just a good leader, but a great leader? And what do you think in our current entrepreneurial landscape and current entrepreneurial and business landscape, what do you think is lacking and that needs work?
So let's start with your first comment, Karen, just about strong emphasis around leadership. There is a lot of noise in the system about leadership. There's a lot of noise from the people who aren't being led, and there's a lot of noise on what the solutions are to create better leaders.
Yes.
And I don't know if you would agree with me on this, but I see and hear a lot of busy. I don't see and hear a lot of productive.
No, I agree with you. And that's just what I've been feeling lately myself, is that there's so much social media vomit, as I call it, for want of a better word, because I think everybody's talking about, and is a coach and is a this and that, but really, like, they've never run corporations. They've never worked in these kinds of environments. They've never even run their own companies. So I totally am in agreement with you on that.
Well, there's a lot of what I call false positives, that there are people or organizations, and I would include organizations in that as well, that they create in their own mind the stories that they have in their own mind, that they're really good at what they do. But in fact, you're right. You will look a lot you'll look at some of the people that are out there purporting to be great leaders, and in fact, they really haven't done anything to build up that wisdom and knowledge. It could be that they have a little bit of education, or it could be that they have a little bit of experience. But here's the difference, and I congratulate people like that in fact, what they've done is they've told themselves this story, and they believe in this story. And if you believe in that story, other people will believe in the story. So good for them for believing in themselves.
Yeah.
You see a lot of false positives in companies that will tell everybody they manipulate data so that it says like we're doing really well. Well, you can create the stories, and ultimately what will come is some success. So they're telling themselves the right stories. They believe in it. They have success. I always wish the best of luck to them. That's not how I build my career, and that's not how I see you have built your career.
Yeah.
That it's more on, I am very focused on building a concrete foundation. I need to know, test, win, retest, fail, learn, grow. I need to know that my foundation is very confidently good.
Yes.
Because, and I think you're the same, Karen, I can't fake good.
No, that's what I'm struggling with actually myself, because I'm seeing so much of that it's kind of like, how do you kind of differentiate yourself? And I think one of the things is obviously getting a little bit quiet, and when posting things on social media and all these things, it's more about quality versus quantity, and adding more value and speaking from real life experience.
Okay, well, hold on a second. What you've said, I'd like to pick out one thing that you said, adding more value. Yeah. Quality versus quantity is less relevant. It's whether or not, if you look at Gary Vee, you and I have had conversations about both Claude and or Gary Vee, and the talent that they have. They put information out there. They have lots of quantity, and every time they put their quantity out there, it adds value.
Yes, absolutely.
And that's when you have to ask yourself, are you adding value, or are you just being busy as opposed to being productive?
100%.
Okay, so let's continue to unpack that for a second, Karen, because this is a good conversation. That here's what I know about communication. That communication is about connection. It's about emotional connection.
Yeah.
And there are very few people that get that right.
Yeah.
And that,
very true.
In fact, communication isn't about self-aggrandizement. Communication is about connection. Therefore, it is nothing to do with you. People who speak just to hear themselves speak make them feel good, but that's when it's noise. That's when it's unproductive. That's when it's not adding value.
Absolutely. I agree with you 100%. So what would you say, in, leading to the next question, what would you say makes, not just a good leader, but a great leader, especially in the current entrepreneurial and business landscape? And what do you think is lacking?
Well, here's what I do know. Fascinating conversation I just had with somebody who built a company in 18 months to a $30 million company.
Wow.
18 months. And now where he is going, that organization is being broken down to sell. It has not sustained that growth. It has not continued. The interesting point in that, particularly focusing on entrepreneurial activities, that what I see is that people are really good at creating an idea. They're very good at selling their idea. And yet they have never trained to be a leader of a team to execute that idea.
Absolutely.
So they're growing fast. So unpack that for a second. What are the mistakes that I see entrepreneurs making. They are hiring too fast. They are not hiring smart. There's little strategy that goes behind the talent acquisition, very little strategy. Then they get a whole bunch of people. All of a sudden they go from 15 to 300 and they go, why isn't everybody doing their job? And the reality, it's garbage in, garbage out. You hire the wrong person because you sped through the process with no strategy. It's not just about having people. It's about having the right people.
Yeah, absolutely.
So entrepreneurs are two things. They're very good in one space. The first thing they need to do, like Gary Vee did, is hire a Claude Silver.
Yeah, absolutely. And well, I mean, like you say, that's also leading by example and, building and, employing the right people at the right time and actually having a strategic strategy. So it absolutely makes sense.
So just let me answer that question with two particular focuses for anybody, but generally an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
You need to do two things. You need to think and you need to talk. How do you talk? You need to, so those are the two objectives. Where are the strategies under those two objectives? You need to ask, listen, and share, because it's about emotional connection. It's not about the functional skills. It's about the emotional connection to you as a leader of that company. Okay. Now, if you are in the process of building a company, you want to go from 15 to 300. You have to ask yourself, are you a quadrant 4 leader? Quadrant 4 leaders are really good at leadership. They're really good at strategy.
Yeah.
And if clarity of the strategy is necessary for your success, are you clear? And then can you hire based on what you want to achieve, and your talent strategy is dovetailing into the clarity of where you want to take the organization. So many people forget that piece. They forget about the leadership. They forget about the clarity of the strategy. And they think getting people on board is going to be the answer. But in fact, it just makes people busy. It doesn't necessarily guarantee productivity and performance.
Yeah, no, 100%. And it makes sense. So just to elaborate on that point is, when you speak about strategy and leadership, how would you, where would you bring vision into that? Or do you think that they're closely related?
I know they're closely related, and vision is the beginning of your future. If you can't see what you want to do, if you can't see it, you can't do it.
Yeah.
In order to achieve anything, you need to be able to see it first in your own mind. And sometimes here people think that they need real clarity on, I want to be $100 million. That's not going to work. For me, that's what I've seen. It's not about the $100 million.
No.
It's about the vision.
Yeah.
And that, if you think about, I use this example all the time. Look at the Walt Disney. Walt Disney started by saying, I just want to make people happy. What a great vision. His brand still stands behind that. It's woven through the entire culture.
Yes.
I just want to make people happy. And therefore, vision is vital to the person who is at the helm, to the person who's in that leadership quadrant, the person who is running that organization. My vision, I want to create communities where people help people succeed. I just want to help other people succeed. That's where I got started on this journey. I want to help 100 people succeed, I said, and it's escalated from there. But that is my core vision. I want to create communities where people help people succeed.
Yeah, and it's also like almost like the pay it forward in a way, in the sense of not necessarily from a philanthropic perspective, but once you kind of help people to build those skills, then they can then go back into their own communities and take those skills into their communities and help other people. So I think that that's also a very important thing.
You know, the fascinating thing, Karen, is that I have people chasing after me all the time about money. You've got to charge, Nancy. You've got to charge. And here's what I know. That when I take money out of the conversation, take money out of the equation, money too often will drive decisions. It's about making money. But in fact, what I am doing is I'm building a foundation where I then can build, the money will come after. But the foundation is going to come from heart and soul. I know the people on my team are leaning in, want to be part of it because of the heart and soul. Therefore, we have a level of concrete commitment because we have a grounded confidence, not only in ourselves, each other, but the vision forward. Therefore, we will easily ramp up to amplification. But it all started in that wouldn't it be fantastic if we created communities where people help people succeed? I didn't ever say I want to make $1 million.
No.
And even companies will forget about people helping people succeed. They become so self-aggrandizing. What is it about me? How can I get a promotion?
Yeah. And the obsession about the bottom line.
Yes. And the bottom line, what I know is this, that when you I can't believe we're still having this conversation and women and pay equity. People are your most important asset, period. And invest in your fucking top performers. Sorry, Karen. Yeah.
No, that's okay.
Invest in your top performers. You're going to get a return on your investment. They're going to lean in, drive hard, number one. And what does gender have to do with pay?
Yep.
It's about intellectual diversity where I'm good, he's good, regardless of whether you have boobs and I don't have boobs. It doesn't really make sense.
Yeah. Well, this is actually another very interesting point, and this is something that I've experienced because I know Gary talks about it a lot. Obviously, give before asking for anything, which is, obvious, but not to everybody. Common sense is not always so common. So, but one of the challenges that I've found, and just kind of wanted to put it out there to you, is I've done certain things where I've offered people, opportunities in media where they haven't paid, and I find that in some instances, sometimes you give things for free, not with any kind of hidden agenda or motivation. And then, I sometimes find that the people that, I have put it out to, and, it's not like low level, entry level people, it's top level people. And obviously for me, it's always been about driving, and adding value. But in some instances, I find that it's like if you do something for free, people don't always take it seriously or they don't value it. And I mean, I've had to take a stand, on several occasions with people by saying, I'm adding value, you're actually getting like an actual dollar value. I'm not gaining anything because that's not what I'm about. And so how do you draw the line in terms of, doing something for free and being taken seriously and having those people commit, and just doing something for free because it's a good thing, and again, no hidden agenda, but the person that you are doing this for, doesn't take it seriously or, become sloppy, in their response time to certain things. So how do you, in your opinion, how is that something that you would manage, or if you faced with that, how would you deal with that?
I would answer that with two words, two statements.
Yeah.
Build your value, build your value.
Yeah.
So what does your brand stand for? I'm good at what I do. I'm the best out there. There isn't anybody better.
Yeah.
There are people that I can learn from, love working with top performers. And this is how I continue to push myself forward. But I know my brand. I'm speaking for myself. This is how I would speak. This is how I speak. I know my brand. I know my value. I'm good at what I do. You want people who are top performers to be top performers, that you're going to call me. Now, I know my value. Okay. The second piece is being very clear. It comes down to clarity. Managing expectations at the outset of the conversation. I'm here to provide a service to you to prove my worth.
Yeah.
I will spend this time, this money to invest in a future relationship with you. My expectation of this is going to be very clear. Do you choose to move forward? If you choose to move forward, great. My expectation is that you will be investing by paying me. Yeah. You pay me what I am worth. I've proven my worth. You pay me for what I'm worth. But managing the expectations at the outset is one of the key pieces of information that I have learned teaching.
Yes.
And I'm going to give you this value. I say to the kids, I'm going to give you this value. This is the energy I'm going to give you. I'm going to show up every day, an hour before class. If you want to come, I'm going to give you this structured lectures. I'm going to give you exposure to other CEOs. This is what I'm going to give you. My expectation is that you're going to come ready to learn. You're going to sit up, give me body language that's giving me energy. So I manage expectations at the outset very clearly. Clarity, expectations, and build the value, build your brand.
Perfect. That's a great lesson from that. So leading to the next question, what are some of the biggest lessons and learnings in your career to date from working in big corporations that could be done better and transitioning into an entrepreneurial landscape?
One of the biggest lessons that I've learned in my career that I have carried through my through line through the entire journey, regardless of whether it was a company of 2 or a company of 86,000, consistently has been clarity, kindness, and expectations. I am very clear where I want to go. I'm very clear where I want my team to go. I am very kind. I give my heart, my time, my soul to the people on my team. Before anything, I will stand in front of a train for anybody that is in my company.
Yeah.
That's consistent, that kindness. And my expectations. My expectations are very clear in that I expect you are going to come to me, that you're prepared, that you have information, that I am not somebody that you are going to sit down with to complain to. That is not what I do. I am not busy. I am very productive. I get the job done.
Yeah.
And I help you succeed. So getting the job done and I help you succeed are the two through lines for me. I say it this way sometimes, Karen. I have a formula. And the formula is 60% love, 30% data, and 10% I'm going to kick your arse.
Yes.
If you want to be pushed, if you are a top performer, come and talk to me. If you're going to whine and waste time, I don't have any time for you.
No.
So that
also leads me to something, because this is something that I've noticed. So women obviously are very talented. I think that there is, a lot to be said, for the skill set that women bring. But one of the things, and you as a coach will probably be able to answer this in a very clear way, is one of the biggest things that I've noticed, and I also speak from my own experience, is that, we know that we're good at things. We know that we have, the ability to do a great job, and to lead. But there is a lot of women that I still feel, well, there's two parts to this. So the one is women struggle to close on deals. So what is it? Because obviously, there's a fear of intimidation, especially if you're working in a very male-dominated industry, which is obviously there's a lot of those industries out there. But without using that as like a complaining point or factor, but it's a very real thing, because there's a lot of women that I've spoken to. There's some which are very strong and almost come from a sort of a masculine energy, if I can call it that, that are very good at closing, and they've worked in very strong male-dominated areas. But for a lot of women that I've dealt with and I've spoken to, one of their biggest challenges is closing deals, especially when it comes to maybe walking into a boardroom full of men, being taken seriously, not having, these sexual harassment situations and all of that. So I was just wondering, from your perspective, what is it that you feel, where is it that women can really gain some assistance in terms of actually strengthening their closing positions on deals?
Okay, I'm going to unpack that a little bit.
Yeah,
I am one of the areas where I've carved out my brand is I don't do contentious. So I reframe the conversation to be about data.
Yeah.
Now, the reason why I introduce it like that, because if I take a female aggregated data on top performers, and I take a Gen Z aggregated data on top performers, Gen Z and female, I can tell you that it is irrelevant. Gender is irrelevant in the generation coming up after us.
Yes.
That the top performing males look exactly like the top performing females, because what we have seen in the past is that women typically are higher in support and affection, but what we are seeing in the future is that Gen Zs are high in support and affection. So we have to be very careful how we genderize conversations.
Yes.
And what the root of the lack of being able to close is because you are driven by your heart. You care so much. You think about the other person before you think about yourself. Now, this is where, if you circle back to what is my vision, I want to build what I call a HOPS communities. Help other people succeed. Well, what stands in the way, that means that those people, the Generation Z, and all of those women out there have gigantic hearts. You just need to put strategies in place and approach these conversations strategically. You need to be very logical in how you approach these conversations. I always reframe it like you're buying a car. You're buying a car. It's just a decision. It's all business, no emotion. Let's just get to the final transaction of buying the car. So people that are coming up, the Generation Z, is full of heart and soul.
Yeah.
That is really wonderful. They can change the world if we give them the bandwidth and the support to do that. Now, when women or Gen Zs are so high in support and affection, you do have to put strategies around where you will also be blinded by your heart. Those blind spots can kick you in the arse.
Yes.
You put strategies around how you solve for those particular strengths. Those are strengths. They give energy. Emotion drives success.
Yeah.
Emotion drives momentum. Emotion is the key trigger to sports success. It's the key trigger to political success. It's the key. Emotion is at the heart. And therefore, we need to capitalize on what women can offer or what Generation Zs are really strong in. And we just need to teach them to put strategies in place so that they can not be blinded by their heart.
Wow, that's amazing. That's great insight, because I think that's also what a lot of women need, or in general. But I think to be able to help women overcome these kinds of situations as well. So having said that, just briefly touching off your bio, having been a 2-time cancer survivor, in terms of your personal journey you went through, would you say that having gone through this experience, what were some of the life skills you learned in this, and that you could apply through your coaching?
Interesting question. I absolutely would land on one area that I have improved as a result of being pushed to the physical and mental and spiritual limits. That I would say the open mind or a learning mindset has been a huge change for me. I always thought, I always say BC and AC before cancer. So BC, I always thought I had an open mind.
Yeah.
But after cancer, I realized, God, did I spend 25 years talking at people? I shake my head.
Yeah.
And then I said that to our best man in our wedding, and he was like, yeah, pretty much. We talk a lot. Anyhow, it's made me a better coach. I have literally trained myself to bite my tongue till it bleeds, to shut up and listen.
Yeah. And that's never an easy thing.
No, that and open mind and learning mindset also means not only do I have to be quiet and listen and hear with the intent of listening and hearing, as opposed to with the intent of responding, which I used to always do.
Yeah.
But the other, which makes me a much better coach. But here's the key, and I come back to data. I'm very high in broad external awareness, which is intuitiveness. I'm 98% on that scale.
Yes.
And in fact, somebody like Claude Silver is also very, very intuitive. And that's why we are good at what we do, because we can sense things. We sense the energies of others. We read the body language of others. And what having an open mind, having a learning mindset has really grounded for me is now that I am biting my tongue, I've trained myself to be quiet. I am doing two things. I'm able to use my intuitiveness, and I am also able to see brilliance in what I have experienced is almost 40% of the population, which are more of an introvert than an extrovert.
Yes, for sure. No, that makes sense. So, it says we wait 10 years to train someone in terms of leadership. What do you think that it is, and what do you think we could do better? And do you think everyone has the ability to lead?
That's a good question. I'm so glad you asked that, Karen, because I just had a conversation with a top performer today who we articulated that. I'll explain it this way. In a team of 25, what I have learned, what I have tested, what I do know in organizations, in a team of 25, I will pull data, and I say soft data because I ask questions. That's one data point. And then I pull hard data, 144 questions. And I look at the results of both of those interactions. And I can tell you, out of that team of 25, in literally 10 minutes, who will be your top performers. So 5 will be your top performers. You put 100% of your time, effort, and money into training them to be your future leaders. 5 out of the 25. 15 of them will be subject matter experts. They are masters of their craft. You give them everything they need in the functional skill area. They will continue to deliver at an exceptional rate. Don't expect them to be leaders. Don't train them to be leaders. Don't talk to them about that. Pay them for what they're worth, the master of their craft. Invest in helping them be better, master of their craft. Those are 15 of them. Then there are 5 that you need to get out of your organization immediately. They are dragging your company down. They are changing the energies and the culture. They are dragging your top performers. You're putting more energy and effort on them because they're making all these mistakes. Cut them from the cord. And I don't say it emotionally. I say it from a data. If you are a person who is running an accounting department, you are overseeing an accounting department, you are responsible for hundreds of millions of dollars of transactions, but you're low in action focus, you will not see detail. It's not how you pay attention. Yeah. And you keep that person, they're going to make mistakes, it erodes their confidence, they do whatever. They're in the wrong role. It's the fit that doesn't work. So either do one work to put them in an area where they do fit, or get them out, but keeping them in that role. And that's what, that is so incredibly important that you look strategically at your team, and you choose those 5 people and you train them to be leaders. And here's what I know, that I've always said this: in the first 10 years of your career, or when your limbic system, the emotional center of your brain, is being coded with behavioral patterns. And when we are coding them, if they are in a role that they're not successful in, they're not being trained how to lead, they're very uncomfortable, then you're coding bad behavioral habits. Train them early when they are most malleable. Train them well, put 100% of your effort in based on the information that you have, that data that you've collected. You say, these are the best, put 100% effort, train them early so that you build the right habits and you set them up for success. The ripple effects of that are, you're going to have an entire team who loves working with the right people.
Yeah, true. Very, very true. So,
let me just share a story. When I was leading a team, I am a very good team leader. I am not good at detail. When the role adjusted and they moved me back to the detail, that is not my strength. You are not leveraging my strength.
No.
You're putting me in and if you can make these decisions with data, that's what I use it for, because you don't make mistakes. But here is if you're changing, people go through these change management exercises. If you're changing the direction of your organization, it is just a logical decision to do the analysis to figure out whether or not you have the right people on your team.
Yeah.
Because you're going to put them through a heck of a lot of stress if you're changing to be innovative, but you have all rule followers on your team, as an example.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So I would say, in conclusion, just train them early. Identify your top performers, pour 100% effort into training them. Train your subject matter experts to master their craft. That's where you invest strategically. You do those 2 things, your company's going to win.
That's brilliant. Thank you so much. So I'm going to just, there's 2 more questions. So the one is, what would you say the 3 key pieces of advice would be for entrepreneurs from a coaching perspective?
Only 10%, 10 to 15%, Dr. Tasha Eurich talks about this. Only 10 to 15% of people think they know themselves, actually have any sort of self-awareness. One of the things that I know is that entrepreneurs are amazing people. They push forward. They're hard workers. They've got resilience. They've got passion. They've got energy. They've got commitment. They are amazing. And they forget to self-reflect. Sit the fuck down. Figure out what you're doing right, what you're not doing right. And I would say you need people, and this is key with every leader, entrepreneur or senior executive of a $100 billion company. You need people who will tell you straight what the truth is.
Yeah, very true.
If you're being an ass, then you need somebody to set you straight. But here's what I also, absolutely the one piece of advice, you've got to spend time figuring out what makes you great. You've got to spend time figuring out what you're good at, what you're not good at. Because a CEO, entrepreneur of $1 million company and a CEO of a $50 million company has very different skill sets. So where do you want to go? Do you have the talent on your team to get there? And the conversation starts with you.
Absolutely. And I mean, just to elaborate on that point is, everybody talks about, everyone's got a different journey, and, that is completely the truth, in terms of being an entrepreneur. But I very often find that, like when we just going back to the point of having all this noise on social media and, people mean well by giving a lot of content or whatever. But on the other side, I feel like, and it's also something Gary has spoken about, is, nobody talks about the hardships in terms of entrepreneurship, and the difficulties, and the highs and lows, and obviously sometimes, I guess it's also a society has said, by a certain age, you have to do this and you have to be here and you have to have this and all of those things. So, if, for example, you went through a challenging time and then, you hit your 40s, whatever the case is, or, some people in their cases 50s, what would your advice be to people who have, had difficulties or felt that they, if you want to call it a failure? I always say failure is feedback, but what would your advice be to people, who maybe hit that 40 mark or even older and, they fail or they have to start again? Because I think it's a hard thing because people look at themselves, like you say, as an entrepreneur. You also have to sit back and reflect and see how you've achieved and what you've done, and be grateful for those experiences. But on the other side, I think, I certainly had this myself, where you question or, certain things happened and then you question and you go, well, I'm this age, am I going to succeed? Am I going to make it? So what is your opinion on, age and failure, whatever age that may be, or the older, or the older you get, like what would your opinion or your advice be on that?
I am a huge proponent of a supporter of failure. Supporter is not the right word. Failure is so crucial to building you the right way. Yeah. That in all of the people that I have coached, it's the people that have gone through some form of trauma. Mm. And I say trauma, but failure, some challenges in life. Mm. And they've come back, reframed it. Look at Viktor Frankl, for heaven's sakes. He chooses to look at the shit he went through as an opportunity to learn. And that is where the brain is so incredibly powerful. Yeah. And I conclude with this. You've used the word failure. That's a negative. But in fact, that's not. No. It's only putting yourself into a mindset of backwards. Put your mindset, reframe so that you are in a mindset of forwards.
Yes.
How can you and put processes in place? Come back to center. Always come back to center. What's not working? What works? What doesn't work? Leverage your assets. How can I leverage my assets to move forward? Come back to center, forward moving thinking. Not self-pity and failure. Failure is I would never use. Failure and weakness are words that are not healthy. No. The entrepreneurship is tough. And if you've got it, you will make it.
Yeah.
Really, if you are at your heart center, are you at your heart center? Do you love doing what you are doing? If you do, then push forward. And I conclude with one thing, and it all comes back to this. And this is what Gary does very effectively: clarity.
Yeah.
What are you good at? Make it very clear. Refine, practice. Keep centered on what you love to do. Come back to center, figure it out, move forward. Come back to center, figure it out, move forward. That's really the process that I follow anyway. And I'm a reluctant entrepreneur.
Yes, for sure. And then out of the last question is, what makes your heart sing as a leader?
My heart sings based on my vision. When I help other people succeed, it makes my heart sing. That gives me great joy.
That's amazing. Well, thank you so much, Nancy. I really appreciate your time, and thank you for all your insightful and amazing knowledge and expertise, and hopefully look forward to doing future interviews and see your progress in the future. So thank you so much.
Well, Karen, thank you. I appreciate everything. And you're in the right space. You have a curiosity about people that is the right core. You at your core are doing the right thing. It is where you are centered. It is good. It comes from the pit of your stomach. That's how I can tell that you are in the right space. It's the details and how you're executing it. You just need to think through think forward. What are some small tweaks that will result in big changes? Because you know at your core, you're very curious. It's almost like you reside at the intersection of curiosity and people and conversation.
For sure, absolutely.
That's where you are in your sweet spot. And
thank you.
It's just a matter of figuring out what are those small tweaks that will have a ripple effect to big changes.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Thank you.
And you asked excellent questions, and I'm excited to continue the conversation.
Yes, absolutely. We will definitely do that.
Okay. All right.
Thank you.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.